It's been met with resistance by residents and leaders, but the project may go forward anyway.
Stop the mine! Stop the mine!
A construction company proposes building a mine in Parley's Canyon. Why residents say it would ruin the air we breathe in the Salt Lake Valley.
A chance for some storms tomorrow. I'll let you know where. Plus, temperatures are on the rise. What to expect heading into the weekend.
A close call for a Sandy family after a car came crashing through their living room window.
A road rage shooting in broad daylight on a busy Utah interstate.
The suspect's actions were extremely random and violent.
How police were able to track the suspect down after they say he shot an 18-year-old woman in the face.
With the 9th pick in the 2023 NBA Draft.
It's NBA Draft night, and the Utah Jazz are busy with 3 first-round picks. We'll tell you how it all went down coming up.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Evans.
And I'm Kelly Chapman. It was a big night for the Utah Jazz. They had 3 first-round picks in the NBA Draft.
Did they make all 3 picks, or did they make a trade? Fox 13 Sports Director Jeff Rainier joins us early to show us how it all went down. Jeff.
Yeah, it's still going on. The Jazz worked out around 100 players to prepare for this draft. Now they're hoping their hard work pays off, with some impact players starting at number 9.
With the 9th pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select Taylor Hendricks from UCF.
Yeah, the Jazz bring in Taylor Hendricks from Central Florida with their first pick, a 6'8" power forward that will join Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler in the front court. He came to play on both ends of the court. Strong defender who can block shots and also can spread the floor as a three-point shooter. Then in the 16th pick, the Jazz selected Keontae George, a 6'4" guard from Baylor, the Big 12 freshman of the year, as a scorer who averaged 16 points per game for the Bears. And the Jazz are just back on the clock right now at number 28. It's being reported they're picking up Bryce Sensabaugh from Ohio State with that 28th pick. So 3 players coming to the Utah Jazz, joining the core of Lauri Markkanen and core. Let's see if they can make an impact. But a big night, no trades, just 3 picks. These players will all probably be with the Jazz Summer League team when they play in the Salt Lake City Summer League starting first week of July.
I was going to say that's a little over a week away.
We'll see them shortly.
They'll be here soon. All right.
We'll see what the reaction is from everybody when we get to see him. But I'm sure fans are reacting tonight at that draft party, right?
Oh, absolutely, they are.
Yeah, that's where Andrea Irvin was, right? Let's go to her and see what she has to say. Are they happy, sad? What do you got, Andrea?
All right, the picks are in for the Utah Jazz. Jazz Bear, how are you feeling about these picks? I couldn't have said it better myself. Now let's see what the fans have to say. Taylor Hendricks, 9th pick. What do you think of that for the Utah Jazz?
I think he's going to be a great addition, in the forward position. It's exactly what the Jazz needed, and they got lucky with him at the 9th pick.
Honestly, I think it'll be good for our team. He seems like a good defender from the look of it. But yeah, go Jazz.
I'm very excited for the Utah Jazz to get him because we have more potential to go to the playoffs next season, which I'm very excited for that because I live in Utah, so ready to see the playoffs.
I don't know about this choice. I thought we were going to take, what's his name, Cam. I thought we were going to take him, but, we wanted Wemby, couldn't get him. So.
What do you think so far, especially with Keontae George, that 16th pick? What do you think?
I think we're really happy with the picks. I really trust the Jazz leadership that they know what they're doing and that they are going to steer us to a bright future.
I really like the 9th pick. I mean, I'm surprised we didn't trade on the 16th. And I'm surprised we didn't take Cam Whitmore, but I like these picks. They're really good.
But what else do we need on this team?
I think we definitely need some better guards and all sorts of great stuff, but we're working there and we're going to get there. And we also need a center, but we're going to get there.
We need a point guard. We need a point guard for the next 10 years.
Do you believe that there's a championship in the future?
Yes.
That's it. With the Jazz, Andrea Irvin, Fox 13 Sports.
Some good breakdown of those picks tonight.
Out of the mouths of babes.
Justin Zanuck need some advice. Those guys could knock on the door.
There you go.
Now for a few. But exciting times. We'll never know what these players turn out to be until a few years. So right now, everybody's smiling.
Yeah.
They can come out hot, and they're going to be here before we know it. So let us know when they arrive. It'll be within the next week.
It'll be shortly because they got to start playing with the Jazz Summer League team to get ready for the Utah Jazz Salt Lake City Summer League. So
I'm
right around the corner.
excited. Thanks, Jeff.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go, Jeff. Thanks so much. Well, a lot of excitement indoors, but it was a beautiful day today outdoors.
Oh, yes, especially in the shade. It was fantastic this afternoon. Now, our air quality, our ozone, is at the moderate level, making for a beautiful sunset. We also do have some rain clouds across the state, so probably very beautiful out your window over the last hour or so. 75 in Salt Lake, 77 for Ogden, 74 in Provo. We've got an area of low pressure that's going to cross the area tomorrow into early Saturday. A lot of wind with this tomorrow, so wind advisories for eastern Utah starting at noon tomorrow. Red flag warnings for Colorado with a lot of heat and also high winds, so some fire concerns here across the region, but it's going to be a pretty quick moving storm. So right now what we're going to have across far northern Utah, eastern Rich County, a few areas of showers and thunderstorms. Bigger picture, mainly dry and just breezy here across the state. And then into the next couple of hours, our temperatures are going to be dropping into the 60s. More what to expect out of tomorrow's storm coming up.
Allison, thanks so much. The Division of Air Quality is considering a proposal to build a mine in Parley's Canyon.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us dozens of residents and activists who rallied against the proposed mine today.
Stop the mine! Stop the mine! Stop the mine!
This is just one front in the battle to try to stop this gravel pit.
Scott Williams is one of the nearly 27,000 Utah residents who signed a petition in opposition to Granite Construction's proposal to build a mine in Parley's Canyon.
I've lived here most of my life, and I just love this place, and I love it because we are so lucky to have the natural assets that we have, the mountains, the desert. And I think a lot of people feel that way, and I think when people see other people getting involved, then they want to get involved.
Environmentalists say the canyon winds would carry constant dust down into the Salt Lake Valley if a mine was built.
If Utah state government cannot protect even our most important natural assets, if public health protection exists only at the mercy of industrial lobbyists, then we will have become the poster child of a failed government.
The proposed mine would be built off the ranch exit on I-80. Environmentalists say this is the worst possible place to put a mine.
Utah is literally full of limestone. As Lake Bonneville receded, it left limestone all over northern Utah. So there's lots of places we can get it, and there's never been a process to say, where's the place that we can get it that has the least impact on wildlife, the least impact on people, the least impact on the air quality.
I reached out to Granite Construction in response to the rally. Chief Marketing and Communications Officer Aaron Kuhlman sent me a statement writing in part, quote, Granite is sensitive to our neighbors' concerns, and Granite intends to adhere to strict environmental controls on the site. Utah has been the fastest growing state in the nation over the last decade and requires significant aggregate resources to meet the needs of the fast-growing Salt Lake area. And during this permitting process, significant misinformation about the impacts of the development and operation of the quarry have been disseminated. The truth is that this site will provide the people of Salt Lake City with a safe, clean, and responsible quarry operation. In Salt Lake County, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The public comment period for the proposed mine ends July 27th.
In developing news, the body of a man was found in the Colorado River today by a group of rafters floating the river. The Grant County Sheriff's Office says the group found the remains at about 12:30, 2 miles upstream from the Westwater Ranger Station in Grand County. The rafters secured the body to their own raft and then floated down the river to the ranger station. The remains have not yet been identified. The incident is under investigation.
Salt Lake police need your help finding whoever shot a man this afternoon. It happened just after 3:30 near 900 South Montgomery Street. Police say the suspect and 29-year-old male victim were arguing before shots were fired. The suspect ran away before police arrived.
When something like this occurs, we use all our assets in order to help find the individual, whether that's canines, we get detectives out here to process the scene, we get our crime lab, we try to identify if there's any witnesses, and just get as much information together as possible.
Despite that exhaustive search, officers did not find the shooter. At this point, police say this was an isolated incident and there is no threat to the public. Anyone with information is asked to call Salt Lake Police.
A family in Sandy is counting their blessings tonight after this car crashed into their living room this afternoon. Take a look. Firefighters say a female driver was coming around a corner at about 2:30 when she hit the gas instead of the brake. That caused the car to suddenly accelerate into the living room of a house near 200 East, 8300 South. The driver was taken to the hospital as a precaution. The family of 3 lives in that house. Only the father and child, however, were home at the time and on the opposite side of the living room when the crash happened. Luckily, they were not hurt.
You remember when those 2 houses in Draper collapsed and slid down the hill? Well, the city and Edge Homes have been meeting regularly to discuss plans for remediation and cleanup. Edge Homes has begun to shore up the slide zone to stabilize the area. Large beams are being installed around the walls and under the road. Once the area is stabilized, they can start backfilling. They've also installed inclinometers to monitor land movement. Draper is currently reviewing the developer's long-term plans.
So it's extremely alarming and scary.
We have a big update in a road rage case in Davis County. How investigators arrested a suspect accused of shooting a young woman twice in the face.
We all want it to be slow enough and a safe street.
Plus, as Salt Lake City works to make streets safer for children, we'll explain why one neighborhood is pushing back against adding speed bumps.
And the Fox 13 News team is out in the community. We'll take you to Family Fun Night at the Gallivan Center in downtown Salt Lake. Well, I tell you, it was a beautiful evening for a party in downtown Salt Lake City.
Well, why not have one? Good thing. Yeah, Family Fun Night. It took place tonight at the Gallivan Center. It really had a big turnout, and that's where Allison and Bob spent their evening while I was over at the draft party with the Jazz.
That's right.
Yes, so we had quite the party of our own. We had a blast meeting Fox 13 viewers and enjoying a perfect summer night. Take a look.
What are we doing tonight?
Then you be welcome here. Bring your blankets, your...
The weather really is beautiful. We also have inflatables, so there's a bounce house for the kids to play in. There is quite the line right now for free face painting. Also, the kids can do some fishing, and it is not catch and release. It is catch and you can keep the toy that you catch, which is really fun. We're on live TV right now. I'm going to hop in. Oh, awesome.
We love you guys at Fox.
We love you guys. Thanks for coming by. You guys want to wave? Yeah. I found some of my morning friends. And what are your names? What's your name?
Julianne.
Julianne?
It's Juliet.
Do this now, okay? We hope that you can join us on the dance floor and enjoy your evenings.
I've got guns, bacon, and rum. Your peg your protection guns. And fire the cannons and sound off the bozos. You think you'll make standards and
Max Roth, the pirate. You know, it is so fun to go out and meet our wonderful viewers. And this little girl right here that you're seeing in this big screen, I got to talk to her parents tonight. They watch us every night here on Fox 13 News, and they don't turn to any other channel.
Oh my gosh, look at how darling their daughter is.
It was so funny. I went to shake her. I said, "Can I shake your hand, sweetheart?" And she said, "No."
She wanted to hug?
And got behind her mom.
Oh.
I have that effect on small children. Anyway, but it really is a delight. We saw Dan and Carrie there, and Max Roth, and Spencer Joseph, and
Looked
who am
like
I
a
leaving
great
out?
turnout.
Allison was there, of course. And,
Yeah.
well, how fun!
Pirate themed, under the sea themed.
Yeah, it was a wonderful pirate band that played for us, and
They were playing pirate remixes of all kinds of genres of music, so it was really fun. The kids loved it.
do you
Weather
know
was
what?
fantastic.
Do you know what the pirates' favorite note is?
R.
No.
Oh,
That's
okay,
not
what?
a note. It's high C.
High C.
The high
Get
C.
it. I understand.
Now
Yes.
do you get it?
Now I do. I'm picking up what you're putting down, but I was wrong initially. All right, a beautiful view at Snowbird Hidden Peak. My mouth hurts from smiling so much. I had so much fun there. The viewers were so nice that were coming up to us. We had temporary tattoos, a photo booth, little candies. It was a great time. It was in the 70s. The last few hours here in Salt Lake in the shade, it was perfect since we did have a UV index that was very high. Really the only concern today is we've had a breeze in some areas, and then also our air quality. So for tomorrow, moderate air quality. By Saturday, we are back to orange air, which is unhealthy for sensitive groups. And we also do have the chance for some thunderstorms in far northern Utah and up into Wyoming for tomorrow. So tonight, what's left of some thunderstorm activity, mainly for the mountains, is eastern Rich County right now. Those are quickly moving into Wyoming. 64 for the morning drive tomorrow. Mid-70s for the afternoon drive. So pretty comfortable tomorrow. Another day with below average temperatures. But I do want to point out, if you've got any friends or family road tripping through Wyoming tomorrow, there is the chance for some very strong storms in eastern Wyoming for your Friday. For northern Utah, this mint green, this light green that you're seeing, that is a low chance for some thunderstorms. Just the chance for some thunderstorms, likely not reaching any severity that would cause any problems. So yes, we have the chance for some thunderstorms tomorrow. Wind will become a concern across the region though, and temperatures are going to stay somewhat at bay. Highs in the low 80s tomorrow, and then we'll have the chance for some isolated storms. Now we look at our forecast for tomorrow temperature-wise, and again, will be about 75 to 80, just maybe a little hard to enjoy with the amount of wind that we're going to have. So with the amount of wind that we're going to have, we'll have wind advisories for eastern Utah, for the Uinta Basin, and for Moab, noon to 8 p.m. tomorrow. We'll see some wind gusts, potentially up to 50 miles per hour for Vernal and Moab. So very gusty tomorrow. Some low visibility is possible with blowing dust. And then temperatures are going to be on the rise. So tomorrow, St. George, upper 80s. After that, we are really heating up. So we're close to the century mark Sunday through the rest of the 7-day forecast. And for the Wasatch Front, we have low 80s for tomorrow and Saturday. And then we're going to be heating up close to 90 degrees after that. We'll take a look at your 2-week temperature outlook coming up in your Super 7-day forecast. We'll go a little more in depth on the wind concerns for tomorrow as well, and let you know what you can expect for the rest of the weekend.
Allison, thanks so much. Coming up, the hope for a miracle is now gone as the Coast Guard confirms that all 5 people on that submersible exploring the Titanic wreckage are dead. What we're learning about the tragedy at sea.
And Fox 13 News talks one-on-one with the lead detective in a Wyoming cold case that's just been solved after more than 40 years. We'll be right back. In world news, the U.S. Coast Guard says it was a catastrophic implosion that killed all 5 people in a submersible that was exploring the wreckage of the Titanic.
This tragic ending comes after several frantic days of searching for the vessel. Scripps News correspondent Stephanie Sandoval has more.
The debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. Upon this determination, we immediately notified the families.
With that, the U.S. Coast Guard confirmed the grim outcome of the Titan's mission to view the wreckage of the Titanic and the death of 5 passengers on board. Hours earlier, the Coast Guard announced the debris field was discovered in the search area near the Titanic by a remotely operated vehicle, or ROV. With time running out on the estimated 4-day supply of oxygen in the Titan, ships, planes, and other deep-sea equipment had rushed to the search search area. The 22-foot vessel lost contact with the surface Sunday during a dive to the wreckage of the Titanic, more than 2 miles down on the ocean floor. The search covered a 10,000 square mile area, twice the size of Connecticut in the North Atlantic. Eventually, it focused where noises had been detected underwater, but the Coast Guard now says those noises do not appear to be related to the site of the submersible's wreckage. Experts had warned the search would be difficult, from pinpointing the submersible's location to reaching it, then possibly bringing it to the surface.
This was a incredibly complex case, and we're still working to develop the details for the timeline involved with this casualty and the response.
Because the submersible is privately owned, it did not have to be formally tested and certified. But warnings about Titan's safety during its development had been raised years earlier. The company's former director of marine operations claimed he was fired after he raised safety concerns about Titan. A friend of passenger Hamish Harding was planning on taking the trip to the wreckage on Titan himself, but changed his mind.
When they weren't even intending to get certification by calling it an experiment, that's when I thought there's just too many red flags here. So I pulled out.
For now, the ROVs will remain at the debris site to gather more data to try to determine how and why this happened. Stephanie Sandoval, Scripps News, Boston.
An 18-year-old girl shot twice in the face in what troopers are saying was a road rage incident. Coming up, how they tracked down the suspect.
An 11-year-old died after being hit in a crosswalk just 7 months ago, and in response, the city wants to make this street safer, but some neighbors are against the plan.
It's a big night for the Utah Jazz in the NBA draft. Coming up, we'll hear from the players and the Jazz on how things went tonight.
The State Bureau of Investigation has arrested a man who they say shot an 18-year-old girl from his motorcycle in a case of road rage 2 weeks ago.
Fox 13 News reporter Lucy Nelson spoke to SBI agents and the Utah Highway Patrol about how they tracked him down.
An 18-year-old driver, was seriously injured. And that could have been any of our loved ones.
A young woman slightly swerving while driving somehow made a man on a motorcycle so angry he shot her twice in the face.
So it's extremely alarming and scary in that the suspect's actions were extremely random and violent.
It happened 2 weeks ago here on I-15 in Layton. Captain Troy Denny with the SBI says the 18-year-old miraculously is going to be okay.
It appears that she remained calm and collected and drove herself to a trusted individual's home, who then transported her to the hospital.
But the search was on for the man who fired the handgun while riding a Harley-Davidson with a female passenger on the back.
It involved Herculean efforts, exhausting every resource that we had available to us.
Tracking down the suspects, Daniel and Nicole Bowden took time and the public's help.
We were able to use private and individual community members' surveillance cameras and camera footage and track the individual's movements and route.
Eventually, they were able to match the suspect's vehicle to his home in Weber County and arrest the Bowdens on Wednesday. Daniel faces attempted murder charges. Colonel Michael Rapich with Utah Highway Patrol says they will exhaust all resources and aggressively fight to hold people responsible for road rage cases like this accountable.
For whatever reason, in the dynamics involved and the emotion that gets involved in driving the vehicle and the frustrations that get out of control, we see people do things like this they would do under no circumstances, and it is absolutely unacceptable.
In Layton, Lucy Nelson, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Salt Lake City is making major changes to improve safety on 13th East after an 11-year-old girl was hit and killed by a car last November.
But the project planned for this summer has the neighborhood split. Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser explains why.
It's been almost 7 months since a Bonneville elementary schooler was struck and killed in a crosswalk here at 2100 East and 1300 South.
I'm in meetings with parents and neighbors who are making an emotional plea to do something and do something now.
From this intersection at 1300 South and 1700 East to Foothill Boulevard, the city is adding 7 speed bumps and a raised crosswalk.
I've always been,
pretty safe in this neighborhood. I never really felt like there were a whole lot of issues, when it came to speeding or traffic or pedestrian safety.
Shay Silk grew up nearby and is part of a group of neighbors against the project. The 1300 South Street Coalition dropped off a petition at the mayor's office Thursday.
The neighborhood's questioning why so many speed bumps and if speed bumps are really the proper choice.
The group says they aren't against safety. They say the city didn't make the time to collect public opinion.
We all want it to be slow enough and a safe street, but we need the decision making for any changes to be done in the way that it is normally done.
Some neighbors say the speed bumps aren't necessary, but one mom tells me she had a scary close call.
As we stepped into the intersection, a car came and turned right into us. They didn't stop at the stop sign. They were going too fast.
Allison Elbrader says the car hit and pushed her son's stroller. The car also scratched her arm when she held it up to protect her daughter.
It's scary, but it's really, really scary after, when you're starting to think about how close you really were to, because both of our kids were in the front of us.
Transportation Director John Larson says the city lowered the speed limit a year and a half ago, but decided more needed to be done.
Anytime we do any project, there are going to be people that don't like it, especially when you're asking people to take on a little bit of inconvenience for the good of the whole.
In Salt Lake City, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
I was really disappointed by the ruling.
Well, coming up, we have reaction from the Navajo Nation on the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling about water rights.
And there is a big update to the teaching curriculum used by missionaries of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We'll explain some of the changes to the program known as Preach My Gospel.
We do have an update on a story we brought you last year. The Utah Attorney General's office has charged 2 men in connection with its investigation of Evergreen Place. That's an assisted living facility in Midvale that has since been shut down.
Jorge Gustavo Gonzalez and his son Ignacio Gonzalez Villarruel each face charges of financial exploitation and intentional abuse or neglect of vulnerable adults. Investigators found, despite being unlicensed, the suspects allegedly collected between $1,000 and $1,400 a month in rent from each of 17 mentally impaired adult men living at Evergreen Place, where they endured unsafe conditions and a lack of proper care. The father and son are scheduled to appear in court July 13th. We're learning more about what led up to the resolution of a 4 decades-long cold case death in Wyoming.
Today, Fox 13 News spoke with the Sweetwater County Sheriff's detective assigned to the cold case death of Pipeline Pete. Now, his body was found in August of 1982 in the desert south of I-80 in Granger along a pipeline road. The man's remains were submitted to the University of Northern Texas for DNA analysis in 2011. It wasn't until this year that authorities received a DNA match for Jack Clausen, a Missouri man who was last seen alive in 1981 when he was visiting family in California. Clausen's family reported him missing after he never showed up for a hunting trip with friends back home.
When I had talked to the brother, he said that it was very hard on his parents. His dad had traveled all over the country trying to identify bodies that could have possibly been him. And, up until, from what I understand, up until his death, they never found him. They were never able to identify a body that matched his. When I contacted them and I was talking to them, they were very thankful, very, grateful that it all happened. It was very sad and they were very upset about it, but at least we come to a resolution for him.
Autopsy results back then determined there were no signs of foul play in his death.
Well, today temperatures made it into the mid-80s, but what about for tomorrow? A lot of wind in the forecast if we'll see a big cool down coming up.
The picks are in for the Utah Jazz. Coming up in sports, we'll hear from the players they selected at 9 and 16 and what they think about joining the Utah Jazz.
Today, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against the Navajo Nation in a water rights dispute involving the Colorado River. In the 5-4 decision, the court threw out the tribe's decades-old lawsuit against the federal government. Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule spoke to a Navajo Nation citizen about what this ruling means for them.
Water has always been a sacred element to the Navajo Nation.
There's often a cultural and traditional component to water.
And like much of the Southwest United States, the Navajo Nation is dealing with a water crisis.
Navajo Nation homes are 67 times more likely to not have water coming into their homes than other American homes. And so the scarcity problem, yes, it's aired across the West, but Navajo Nation in particular really is suffering from this.
The tribe was seeking more water rights to the Colorado River. Cody Stewart with the Colorado River Authority of Utah says the river provides water for 7 Southwest states, including Utah.
Decisions and policies that impact the Colorado River, I think, have a very real and immediate effect on the people of Utah and the Southwest.
On Thursday, the Supreme Court decided 5-4 against the Navajo Nation, deciding the federal government is not responsible for ensuring water access for the tribe. In the majority opinion, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh said in part, the Navajos contend that the treaty requires the United States to take affirmative steps to secure water for the Navajos. In light of the treaty's text and history, we conclude that the treaty does not require the United States to take those affirmative steps. Like many other Navajo Nation citizens, Heather Tanana says she was disappointed by the Supreme Court's decision. Still, she and the Navajo Nation are not giving up hope.
It is critical to just day-to-day living and the ability of a community to thrive.
In a statement, Navajo Nation Speaker of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, Crystalline Curley, said in part, today's ruling will not deter the Navajo Nation from securing the water that our ancestors sacrificed and fought for, our right to life and the livelihood of future generations.
Even though this court found there's no enforceable duty of the federal government to help the nation, there still is historic investment by Congress for tribal water infrastructure projects.
Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We do have an update on a story Fox 13 News broke earlier this week. Native American tribal leaders and environmental groups are supporting a massive land exchange between the state of Utah and the federal government involving Bears Ears National Monument. Now, the deal involves 162,000 acres of land inside the monument in southeastern Utah. The state will give the land to the federal government in exchange for federal lands elsewhere in Utah. It's a deal potentially worth hundreds of millions of dollars for the state, while the feds can do more to protect the monument. Utah Congressman John Curtis proposed the land swap in a hearing today in Washington, D.C. The Bears Ears Commission, which is made up of tribal groups, supports it. And so does the Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance, the Sierra Club, and others. One, however, who does not, State Representative Phil Lyman, whose district in the Utah legislature includes Bears Ears. He's now threatening a lawsuit and tells Fox 13 News that Utah leaders are doing the bidding of environmental groups, and San Juan County is not the winner in this deal.
Missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will start using an updated method for teaching prospective converts. The church says the second edition of Preach My Gospel includes a stronger emphasis on the teachings of Jesus Christ and the importance of keeping covenants. Mission leader couples at the Missionary Training Center in Provo got their first look at the new curriculum today. It will be used by the 68,000 proselyting missionaries in 150 countries. In a video released by the church, President Russell M. Nelson described some of the changes.
This new edition comes at a time when the world is rapidly changing and reflects a sensitivity to many of those changes. It contains some of the best instruction I've ever seen to help people accept the Lord's invitation to come unto Him.
The first edition of Preach My Gospel was released nearly 20 years ago. The second edition is now available online in English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. Printed copies will be available by the end of the year, and more languages will be available beginning next year. The Tabernacle Choir's trip to Mexico last week has left members of the choir sick. So much so, they canceled tonight's rehearsal and this Sunday's live broadcast of music and the spoken word. A church spokesperson says a couple of choir members tested positive for COVID-19 shortly after arriving in Mexico for performances last week. Since returning to Utah, more choir members tested positive and others have travel-related illnesses. The pause is meant to give the choir a chance to rest and recover.
Speedy recovery to all of them,
hopefully so.
Well, if this is what summer is like in Utah, the weather we had today.
Yeah, bring it on.
I'm digging it, Allison.
Bring it on.
Okay, so we're going to be a little bit cooler tomorrow by just a few degrees. Today we made it to 85, tomorrow low 80s, which is a little bit below average for this time of year. We'll be in the low 80s for tomorrow and Saturday. And then unfortunately it is on, and it's likely really going to be heating up, especially as we get into July. But for right now, it's 75 here in Salt Lake. It was a beautiful evening in Salt Lake City. Come tomorrow, chances for rain mainly off to our north. We could see some isolated showers and thunderstorms for the Wasatch Front and northern mountains. Tomorrow, our main weather hazard will be gusty conditions. That's what you're seeing in blue across eastern Utah for tomorrow. Noon to 8 p.m., we have wind advisories for the Uinta Basin and for Moab with wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. And then heading into Saturday, things are going to be quite a bit calmer. So right now across northern Utah, a few showers, eastern Rich County, Wasatch back. We head into the overnight hours. We'll have temperatures 60s and 70s as we get ready for bed, and then mainly 50s and low 60s waking up on Friday morning. So throughout the day tomorrow, temperatures will make it into the 80s, likely briefly, but by Friday at 5 o'clock, mid 70s, a great Friday evening, and we'll eventually see some wind starting to calm down. Chance of precipitation for Ogden tomorrow is isolated, so we could see a few storms. And then for Provo, your chance of precipitation for tomorrow very low, but we'll continue with some low chances come next Tuesday and Wednesday, but a pretty dry 7-day forecast for Provo. For St. George, also a dry 7-day forecast. 86 tomorrow in St. George. After that, mid 90s on Saturday, upper 90s on Sunday, close to that century mark Sunday through Thursday. So for Salt Lake City, we're going to be wrapping up June. Temperatures are going to be near or above average Sunday through the rest of the 7-day forecast. But for tomorrow, partly cloudy. Air quality for tomorrow forecast is moderate. By Saturday, we are back to the orange level, which is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Now let's break down our chance of precipitation here in Salt Lake City over the next 7 days. Tomorrow, isolated. Next Tuesday, isolated. Beyond that, we're looking at a pretty dry 7-day forecast. Even on those days, mostly dry forecast. Temperature outlook for days 8 to 14. So this is for a week 2 forecast. The 30th of June through the 6th of July. Above average temperatures here in Utah and in that same time frame. So right around leading up to 4th of July, we're going to have drier than usual conditions and also those above average temperatures. So things are really going to be heating up as we start our next month.
The Utah Jazz went into the NBA draft with 3 first-round picks, and they ended up making all those picks, hoping to bring in some impact players right away, starting with the 9th pick.
With the 9th pick in the 2023 NBA draft, the Utah Jazz select Taylor Hendricks from UCF.
Yeah, the Jazz brought in Taylor Hendricks from Central Florida with their first pick, a 6'8" power forward that can play on both ends of the court as a strong defender who can block shots and spread the floor as a three-point shooter. The Jazz are back on the clock 7 picks later.
With the 16th pick in the 2023 NBA draft, the Utah Jazz select Keyonte George from Baylor University.
Then at 16, the Jazz got Keyonte George, a 6'4" guard from Baylor. The Big 12 Freshman of the Year is a scorer who averaged 16 points per game for the Bears. The Jazz then wrapped up their 3 first-round picks when they took Bryce Sensabaugh from Ohio State, the 6'6" guard who led the Buckeyes in scoring as a freshman, averaging 16 points again. Let's go live to Fox 13's Morgan Vance with more.
Yeah, Jeff, we just got done hearing from Jazz GM Justin Zanuck. He said that both Hendricks and George were in the club's top 9. They ended up getting both guys before 16, so they feel pretty good about that. And as for Sensabaugh, he was in their top 18. So all in all, very good draft for them, at least on the surface. As for Hendricks, this is interesting. He's the only guy in college basketball last year that made 60-plus threes, 55 blocks, and had 35 dunks. So a well-rounded guy, a stretch 4, and they're all high-character guys as well. Here they are.
I know the Utah Jazz, they like to play big. They like big lineups. They like moving Laurie to the 3. So I feel like I could fit in that team really well because they have like a lot of length. So I'm gonna be right with them, and then my shooting ability could really help them out as well.
My scoring ability is, I feel like is one of the best. So, my creativity with the basketball, I don't think I know they're gonna get an all-around player. Continue to compete each and every day. Is gonna play winning basketball.
Expect to see all these guys here in Salt Lake at the Salt Lake City Summer League. Free agency is after that. From the Zions Bank basketball campus, Morgan Vance, Fox 13 Sports.
Well, the 125th Utah State Amateur Golf Tournament's next week, and it'll be back at the Country Club for a record 42nd time. John Wright won it the last time it was at the Country Club in 2012.
I'm really excited. I get excited for the State Am every year, though. So this is my favorite time of year. It's the tournament I look forward to the most every year, and to have it at my home course, at a course that I won the State Am on, yeah, I'm pretty excited. I wish I was playing better, but I'm excited. To be on the list of players that have won here is really an honor, and it means a lot to me, and I'd love to win it twice here.
I played with John today at 52, man. That guy can still hit the ball, but do everything really good.
How'd you do?
Not so good. Not as well as John.
Not against
I made 2 birdies, but a lot of
that's pretty good.
A lot of other things.
How many did he make?
He made more than I did.
Well, you were good practice for him.
Yeah, right?
I guess.
I was there
He's
to
getting ready.
encourage him.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining us for Fox 13 News at 9.
Stick around. Quick Cast is up next right after the break.